Hello everyone, my name is Morgan and I'm currently a film student studying writing and editing specifically. However, what I've noticed through the different classes that I've been taking is that no matter what you're studying in film, there's pretty much this common thread through everything. It's that it all boils down to how to effectively tell a story. Today I want to talk about scene structure specifically and apply some of these concepts to a popular scene from a film or TV. First, I want to go over some of these concepts so that we can kind of all be on the same page as we watch the clip. So when I talk about scene structure, this is pretty much what I mean. You can see it looks pretty similar to what you would expect for a full story. We have 3-act structure, just like you would for the plot of a full-length story. It basically is kind of the same for the scene within the story. As time passes throughout the scene, tension is going to be slowly building until we get to the climax, which generally happens right at the beginning of the 3rd act. And after the climax happens, we kind of cut the scene pretty quickly after that. However, until we get to that point throughout the scene, there are going to be these little escalations that happen that sort of chip away at the narrative and give us little pieces of information that will build tension and keep us as an audience engaged. Even outside of this structure, there's other things that you want to put into a specific scene, including what your character wants, like what their goal is, as well as what obstacles are placed in front of them that's preventing them from reaching that goal. Generally, if there's 2 or more characters within a scene, they have different wants and different obstacles, and those wants and obstacles are sort of in opposition, and that sort of creates some of the tension. We're going to jump into the scene that I want to start with. I think it's fantastic. It is, here, let me just go there. So this is a scene that we're going to be talking about. It's a scene from Game of Thrones featuring Oberyn and Tyrion. It's a pretty classic, iconic scene if you've seen the show. So I'm going to go ahead and play it and pause it, and then we'll go from there.
Imagined you'd be back at the brothel at this hour.
I did spend some time with an absolutely stunning blonde the other day.
Do tell. I've got every kind of filth down here except the kind I like.
Your sister.
Oh.
Okay, so already we've had a few things happen. I'm going to go back quickly to the very, very, very beginning, the opening shot. This is so significant because this is basically establishing the status quo for Tyrion. So it's very, very dark. He's obviously got a pretty unhappy face on. And basically he's just stuck in this cell, stuck in darkness. His future is looking pretty bleak at the very start of this scene. And then the first escalation happens when Oberyn enters the cell. This is basically a change in the status quo. This is something that's not typical, is a person just coming in and visiting him. So that is the first escalation, because this person walks in and you're like, what's going on, you know? And then the next escalation happens when Oberyn mentions to Tyrion that he met with his sister. And if you're familiar with the show, you know who Cersei is, you know who Tyrion's sister is, and you know why that's significant. Those are the 2 main escalations that have happened so far, and we've established the status quo and how this scenario is a divergent from the status quo for Tyrion. So let's keep going.
Except the kind I like.
Your sister.
Oh.
Cersei approached me. We spoke a great deal about her daughter. How worried your sister is about her. She was trying very hard to pretend she had not come to sway me against you. I think she may have even believed it herself.
Making honest feelings do dishonest work is one of her many gifts.
Okay, so the next escalation that has happened since we've discovered that Oberyn talked to Cersei. For one, we discovered that it was Cersei who approached him. And we also discovered that the conversation was about Tyrion. We've also established that Oberyn was basically able to see through it and knew pretty much immediately what her actual intentions were. So let's keep going.
It was difficult for her to hide her true intentions. It is rare to meet a Lannister who shares my enthusiasm for dead Lannisters. She desperately wants to see you killed.
She didn't need to bother you. It looks as though I've taken care of that myself. The joy she will feel when my head leaves my neck. She's wanted this for a long time.
Okay, so I would say another escalation just happened right there, where Tyrion basically reveals that he is aware of his sister's intentions. And as far as he knows, Cersei is going to get her wish and Tyrion is going to be killed the following day. That's, in Tyrion's mind, that's what he believes. This also, in my opinion, is basically the end of the first act of the scene. And that is basically just Oberyn entering the cell with Tyrion and letting him know about the conversation that he had with Cersei. And so this is going to be basically the start of the second act of the scene.
Yes, I know. We met, you and I, many years ago.
I think I would have remembered that.
Unlikely, you had just been born. Our father brought me and my sister Elia with him on a visit to Casterly Rock.
Okay, I want to stop it right there. 2 more points of escalation just happened. We could say that it was just the fact that Oberyn met Tyrion as a baby. However, the way that it was revealed actually caused it to be 2 separate points of escalation, because first he's like, we met once before. And you can see on Tyrion's face that he is kind of like shocked and confused, like he has no idea what he's talking about. So that in itself is its own point of escalation. The fact that they met at one point is an escalation. And then we chip away even further, and it's revealed then that it actually happened when Tyrion was a baby. So you can kind of understand what we mean by points of escalation and sort of gradually building tension, and how it is more engaging to us as an audience to be slowly revealing the information in this way. So we'll keep going.
My first time away from Dorne, I didn't like anything about the rock. Not the food, not the weather, not your accents, nothing. But the biggest disappointment, you.
Okay, so that obviously is another point of escalation. It's increasing the emotional tension. One thing about how the structure works is that it's not going to be a straight line going up. It's kind of like there's peaks and valleys when it comes to these escalation points. And I would say this is kind of like a little bit of a valley for Tyrion, because it stings, right? It stings to be told that to your face that you're a disappointment. I'm sure it's something he's maybe used to, giving that what his family is like, but it's still to be told that to your face. He kind of like pushes it off sarcastically in Tyrion fashion, but it's still, I think, kind of more of a valley for Tyrion. But that's I would say, a big escalation point there. Specifically, it's an emotional escalation.
You and my family have more in common than you might admit.
The whole way from Dorne, all anyone talked about was the monster that had been born to Tywin Lannister. A head twice the size of his body, a tail between his legs, claws, one red eye. The privates of both a girl and a boy.
That would have made things so much easier.
When we met your sister, she promised she...
So basically, I would say that whole little section there is its own point of escalation. Oberyn describing specifically, he's pulling from a memory of specifically how baby Tyrion was described to him as a monster. And this is, again, raising the emotional tension, because it's obviously very hard to hear. If you put yourself in Tyrion's position, we are, as an audience, meant to empathize with him. This is sort of raising that emotional tension even further. So yeah, let's keep going.
She would show you to us. Every day we would ask, every day she would say, soon. Then she and your brother took us to your nursery and she unveiled the freak. Your head was a bit large, your arms and legs were a bit small, but no claw. No red eye, no tail between your legs, just a tiny pink cock. We didn't try to hide our disappointment. That's not a monster, I told Cersei. That's just a baby.
So I absolutely love this part. This is also another one of those like escalation points, because what this is telling us is that Oberyn, when he looked at baby Tyrion, he did not see a monster. He just saw a baby. We're getting information about a character who is not even a part of this scene. Cersei saw a monster. That's just telling us who Cersei was, even as a child. For this long, since Tyrion was born, she's had this animosity towards him.
And she said he killed my mother. And she pinched your little cock so hard I thought she might pull it off until your brother made her stop. It doesn't matter, she told us. Everyone says he will die soon. I hope they are right. He should not have lived this long.
Okay, so this, again, is another point of escalation. We learn that even when Tyrion was just born, Cersei wanted him to die immediately. She's always had this hatred, like this deep hatred for Tyrion. And you can see on his face, this is affecting him very, very much emotionally. And since we are empathizing with him, it's affecting us emotionally as well. It's very heavy. So this here also is the end of the second act of the scene. So basically the first act of the scene was when Oberyn comes in and they talk about the conversation that he had with Cersei currently. And then the second act of the scene was when Oberyn talks about the past and the time that he met Tyrion as a baby. And now we're going to get into the third act and final act of the scene, where the climax will happen very soon.
Well, sooner or later, Cersei always gets what she wants.
I wanted to stop it there really fast, just because that line there, even at the beginning of the third act of the scene, Tyrion still is holding on to the belief that he's gonna die. Like the next day, he's gonna die. He's convinced himself of it. There's nothing that's gonna be saving him. And when we talk about character wants and obstacles, that kind of makes it a bit obvious that what Tyrion wants is to live. He just wants to not die the next day during the trial by combat. And that obstacle in his way, obviously, is that he is trapped in a cell. There's nothing he can do about the situation that he's in. What Oberyn wants, we're about to learn it right now. So let's keep going.
And what about what I want? Justice for my sister and her children.
If you want justice, you've come to the wrong place.
I disagree.
Okay, really fast. We learn what Oberyn's want is in this scene. We talked about how what Tyrion wants is to live. He wants to survive the situation. There's not really, in his mind, any way out of it. Oberyn wants justice for what happened to his sister and his sister's children. So we have a want for Tyrion and a want for Oberyn, and we'll see what happens.
I've come to the perfect place. I want to bring those who have wronged me to justice, and all those who have wronged me are right here. I will begin with Sir Gregor Clegane, who killed my sister's children and then raped her with their blood still on his hands before killing her too.
Okay, so that's significant. That's another point of escalation. What Oberyn wants is justice for his sister and her children. And the way for him to get that justice is to defeat Sir Gregor. He needs an opportunity to defeat Sir Gregor, who happens to be the person that Tyrion needs to defeat in order to win the trial by combat. So we're approaching the climax. It's about to happen right now.
I will be your champion.
Okay, so this is the end of the scene. Final escalation, and the climax of the scene is right there when Oberyn mentions that he will be Tyrion's champion. So basically, Oberyn is going to be fighting Sir Gregor on Tyrion's behalf. So now what we've established is at the end of the scene is that really, when it boils down to it, Tyrion and Oberyn kind of want the same thing, because Sir Gregor dying would mean justice for Oberyn, and Sir Gregor dying also would mean Tyrion wins that trial by combat and he gets to survive. In this scenario, ultimately, we discovered that they want the same thing. And you can kind of see how we chip away at the narrative. We sort of drop these escalation points throughout the scene. It's 5 minutes long. What could have happened is Oberyn just barges into the cell, says, "I will be your champion," and that's it. You know, we didn't really even need that story about how he met Tyrion as a baby. Really, all that did was sort of rise the emotional tension and show us as the audience who Cersei was as a child, and it sort of makes us more emotionally invested in Tyrion, and we want Tyrion to live now, even more than we did before. And one more thing that I want to talk about with this scene is the lighting. In my view, the light in this scene is sort of symbolizes hope, because if we look at the very, very beginning, this is how you can barely even see Tyrion's face because it's so dark. There's no light in this room, and to me that says he has zero hope in the beginning of the scene. He has no hope of surviving. As far as he's concerned, he's gonna just be dead. And then you take this opening shot and you compare that to the very, very end, and look at this. You can see there's so much light and there's warmth, and his eyes are glowing, and he's just filled with hope at the end of the scene. Now he has hope that there's a chance that he's going to actually survive. So that's pretty much going to do it for this talk about this scene. If you have anything you would like to add to the discussion, I'm still just a student, so I'm kind of learning all of these concepts still. This is kind of a way for me to practice myself and sort of understand them better and become a better storyteller. So if there's anything that I missed or anything you would like to add, please leave it in the comments. Please let me know. I absolutely love doing this and learning about these concepts and applying them to these scenes is pretty fun. Okay, so that's going to do it for this video. And thank you so much for watching.